Welcome to the Paisans podcast. We're your hosts, the brothers from other mothers, Dante, Dave, and Sark. Join us as we talk about current events, our wives, kids, or whatever else life is throwing at us this week. You're with the Paisans, you're with family.
So do you guys think the firing of Salah was just like the sacrificial lamb? It was a warning shot to the team that we're all in now. It's do or die.
Yeah, I guess he was the easy target, even though he's the head coach. I mean, our owner, despite what we say and what the fan base says about him, he actually has never fired a guy mid-season. So why? I don't know. I mean, to me, it was a panic move. I don't think anything different is happening right now. So I don't think anything changed. So it didn't really work. And now,
right,
I think they're going to have a hard time hiring a coach next year if it's not Jeff Olbermann. So I don't know. To me, I'm not even trying to say Robert Saleh was this great coach. He might not have been a great coach. His record certainly isn't very good. So I'm not crying over that. It's just, why did you do it that way? And it didn't help. So why are we changing all this things?
Yeah.
So it might down the road. I don't know, but it didn't help right now. So now they've lost 4 in a row.
Last year at the end of the season was the time to do it. I think look, high hope. We had high hopes coming into this season. I mean, look at a couple of weeks ago we did a podcast, and I was saying look at what we picked us to go, Dave. Not undefeated, but 4 losses.
I think we'd have to win out right now to get the record correct. So we're not even halfway through the season.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, we thought we would be trouncing these teams, and it just goes to show you this is why the game is played, because on paper we have a ton of talent on the roster, and I'm not saying they were a flawless team, but a ton of talent. And so what do you say?
Yeah,
other than there's other things there's other factors at play, I should say. And I've heard a lot of different theories. I don't know, probably all of them are true on some level. Yeah. Are they somewhat complacent? Are they coming into the season we got so much talent, basically we're going to walk through? Is maybe
which happens. I mean, that happens when you build those kinds of teams. You see it all the time.
Have some of the superstars maybe? I don't know. I don't know I don't know what is different from last year to this year, but
yeah,
Breece Hall had a really good game the last game, but even the run game has just not been. I forget what his yards per carry were, but he had a high yards. He was over 4 yards per carry on the average, pretty high. And this season, he's negative yardage half of these games,
a non-factor.
Yeah. Right. Now, is that him? Is that the offensive line? Probably a little bit of both. Garrett Wilson, everybody across the league, nobody is out there a hater on Garrett Wilson. Everybody thinks Garrett Wilson's an absolute stud. Now, he's still getting receptions every game. He's got a touchdown, I think, in every game in which we have touchdowns. I mean, but he hasn't separated himself in the way that we expect. Now, we're hoping that with Devontae Adams coming in, that should open up a lot of things for him.
Right.
But when you look at the coverage, he's been getting double teamed, on every play before Adams joined. Sauce Gardner, I don't know what to say. I mean, I suspect that he is playing very well, but he's had a couple of moments where he's had a couple of huge pass interference penalties. At least one of them was totally bogus. But they had that, Dave, which was the game they were playing? Was that Tennessee? Where the guy caught the touchdown, they caught a touchdown right at Sauce Gardner's feet. And he didn't even go down. He didn't go down because I don't even know if he saw the ball coming. He didn't expect the guy to catch the ball. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I think it was Tennessee. We ended up winning that game, but yeah.
The NFL is a copycat league. Everybody watches film all year. Guys get reputations. So I have a feeling that last year Sauce got a lot of grace on a lot of contact. And I think that there was a lot of talk about it in the offseason because this year they're just not giving him nearly as much play. And I as a fan, have to acknowledge there were a couple of times last year I was like, geez, he's lucky he didn't get a call on that play because, it's really getting handsy and stuff. I don't know. Dave, what do you think of that theory?
Well, yeah, I do think there's some truth to that. I think really what I'm seeing from the Jets right now is a bunch of young, really talented players who haven't accomplished a whole lot yet, who are maybe thinking they're all that, because to the point of Sauce Gardner, I do think he's playing the game very well and he's covering his position in the defense, covering his half of the field and locking that down, because they don't throw passes at him very often. There have been multiple games this year where they didn't even target him. Yes. And so you're like, okay, well, I didn't really see him making any plays. The things I did see him doing, though, that weren't great was he's not a great tackler. He's not great in the run game. And he doesn't love that contact, I don't think. I think he'd rather deflect passes and intercept passes. But honestly, he's had chances. And the game against Minnesota, I think, we lost
he dropped the touchdown. He dropped the interception.
Interception in the end zone that popped right up to him, that any player in the league, especially the best cornerback in the league, catches with ease and maybe even runs back, because that's, I don't know, but honestly, you just go down in that situation and get a touchback. And he dropped it, and then they scored on the next play, running play right up the middle.
Yes,
this is a guy who's getting a lot of praise and has been an All-Pro twice. So now he's compared to Lawrence Taylor, who is an absolute demon on the football field. And to your point, he's playing very well. Yes, we can acknowledge that, but team sucks. Team's record has been awful the whole time he's been there. They've been this season 3, they've been losing every time. And I don't know, there's just something missing, and it's not blaming Sauce Gardner specifically. I'm just using him as an example. All of these guys are kind of falling into that scenario. Yes. It's just it's almost there's almost feels like there's a cockiness. I can't say that for sure. I'm not there with the team, but it just feels like that from a fan perspective.
Well, and if the front office has struggled, we all know they've struggled before. I like Giants organization. The organization itself is constantly struggling. So you add that on top of it, and now you have these big personalities. You don't really have leaders, especially now. Where is your point of leadership? Is it Aaron Rodgers?
That's a good point. It's definitely the ownership group and just upper management for sure. That's the main issue, and that will always remain. So, or it will remain for the foreseeable future. So you have to deal with that, I guess.
Right. They're not for sale.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, exactly. I have to say this. Garrett Wilson, as far as I can tell, is a standout, role model of a kid. Not a big personality, Mike, in any sort of a cocky way. And I would tell you, of all the guys I've seen, he seems really genuine and sincere from all that I can see. But he really seems to be a good kid. And I think he is sincerely trying to figure out what he needs to do to get himself to the level that, seen at the level that he was at. I think he was genuinely hurt after this last week because ball bounced off his chest and it became an interception, and it was sort of the turning point of the game. And you could tell in the press that he was gutted. You could just see the kid was gutted. Sauce Gardner also, I have to say, everything I've ever seen out of him has been pretty humble and sincere. I don't get cockiness from him. Maybe not quite to the level of Garrett Wilson, but by all accounts, as far as I can tell, a good kid.
I was going to say, well, the thing about this team, though, is they have all these young guys that we're just talking about, the Breece Halls, the Garrett Wilsons, the Sauce Gardners. They're going to have to pay all these guys soon. You throw Jermaine Johnson into the mix as well, because you can't forget about him, and he's same draft. So they're all going to be up for they're all going to be up for contract soon, and they're not going to have a quarterback situation figured out, I don't think, because Rodgers is only giving you this year and hopefully next year at this point, but he also hasn't played well yet, so not consistently enough. But you hope that he's.
I think next year
Tom Brady needed time to get used to the Bucs, albeit it ended up happening in his first year of winning the Super Bowl, but they were having a really rough stretch during the regular season. They kind of figured it out right at the end. So it's not unreasonable to say that that why this isn't working. But I mean, just like long term for the Jets, that's where I start to get a little worried, because I don't know how they're going to pay these guys. You've seen how these teams look at the running back. So Breece Hall is probably going to be gone if he's looking for $15 million a year or whatever. Garrett Wilson's going to want to get paid. Sauce Gardner's going to want to get paid. And it's like, how do you decide how you keep all these guys when you're going to have a lot of holes because you're not going to have a quarterback? I don't know. The other stuff isn't set in stone because they also don't have a coach right now. So
I know, right? It's
crazy. It's a little.
I mean, in 2 years, it's going to be rough. Next year is going to be rough. But I think you're right, Dave. I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I think you can assume Breece Hall will go because he's going to want to get paid, and the Jets will be like, yeah, that's why we have Braylon Allen. Because you can't, and not for nothing, but Breece Hall's going to have to play better for the rest of this season and then through next season if he wants to get paid too. Because if he's playing like he's playing right now, but assuming he returns to form, because I mean the kid's an absolute stud, right? So I mean, assuming he returns to form, I think Dave, you're right. He's the one who becomes expendable, and then you got to look at Jermaine Johnson, Sauce. I mean, all of them, they all play different positions. You need them all, and I'd rather see you pay the homegrown talent. That's one thing the Jets have been horrible at. I mean, horrible. Mm-hmm. It's just you draft a kid, you bring him up, and then you sign them. Like you make them a Jet for life. You know how few guys? There's virtually nobody. Like the Brickashaw Ferguson, Nick Mangold. I don't know. Like who in the last 5 years? Like we let everybody go.
I think a lot of teams though don't have the ability to keep guys like that for a lifetime because of free agency. Like they can test the market and get top dollar. So a lot of them do jump around. But I understand what you're saying. Most of what you're seeing with some of our draft picks is that they go to that second team and get that contract, and they actually are better than what they gave the Jets. Like I'll use Sam Darnold and Geno Smith as the examples, right? Like those are the easy one. So that's I think the frustrating part where you see these guys and then you're like, they actually get paid somewhere else. You're like, they're actually better than they were with us.
Can you think of an example of that that's not a quarterback?
Let's see. Well, Demario Davis is a good one for the Jets because he actually was gone. I remember him. Came back, and then he went to the Saints and had like an amazing career with the Saints. And now he's probably recognized as a Saint versus a Jet. And he was actually on the Jets twice. Yes. So that would be that's I guess an easy one. I'd have to think about some others, but I actually think there's probably others.
Well, there might be, but I guess I'd say that about. I asked the question because the thing with the quarterbacks is I think we've touched on this, Dave, is like I'm of the opinion that part of the problem is that you feel mandated to play a quarterback as a rookie if you draft him in the first round. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's really beneficial for them. I think even the first round draft picks need several years to watch and learn because it's a different game than what they play at college. And I think the best evidence of that is Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, these guys who struggle with the team that drafts them. After 4 years, they go on and they play a backup somewhere. And I'm sure that there's guys who never get a shot, but for some of these guys who get a shot, you turn around and go, whoa, all of a sudden this kid can play. It's like, Sam Darnold being, I don't know if he's going to be the franchise quarterback for Minnesota or not, but no Jets fan should be shocked that he's playing well. That's just the kid we sucked for Sam. Remember that? Sucked for Sam? It's like, so I'm not like, so when it comes to the quarterbacks, I think that's sort of a unique position. I think that they tend to have more grace with the other positions. Even if you draft them first or second round, they don't necessarily have to play. Like this kid, Corley, that we drafted second round, right? I think, wasn't he a second round pick, Dave? Or
third round.
Third round. Oh, he was third round. Okay, well then I stand corrected. But I don't know. I just tend to think that the quarterbacks, it's like if you draft a quarterback first round, he's got to play. And I think that position in particular, that's tough. I guess it's true for anybody you draft in the first round. You expect them to play. But what I should be saying is maybe the quarterback should be an exception because of the uniqueness of that position.
Yeah, and maybe especially in New York.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's a good point too. Because, I mean, look at the Giants. Look at Daniel Jones. I mean, he's actually had a longer stretch, and now he should be at the point where he's that's several years and he should be getting better. But I mean,
yeah,
he probably needs to go somewhere else before he could ever be good, like ever reach his full potential, I'd say. That landed him as a first-round pick.
And ironically, he plays terrible at home. Usually looks okay on the road.
Interesting, isn't
it? He has one touchdown in 4 home games. That's unbelievable.
That's rough.
I think that's a factor too, when you know that everybody's watching every goddamn thing you do. On the field and off of the field. You stand on the sideline and they're critiquing you.
That shot of a couple of weeks ago when Saleh came up to Rodgers and Rodgers sort of gave him. I mean, they have made hours of content of that interaction, and I genuinely the fact that Saleh got it's like now you got guys saying, "Oh, there was the evidence that Saleh was on his way out because
he knew."
And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Now, I genuinely think that Rodgers doesn't really care about that. But when you understand that that's the type of stuff, like they will make something a nothing.
Oh, yeah.
You can see how a young kid, to your point, well, I think to both your points, it's like to a young kid who's like just trying to figure things out. It's like, that is brutal, man. That is brutal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Setting a kid up to fail, weeks worth of content based on like it's like if you and I go to high five and you go to fist bump and I do this and we sort of have an awkward moment and then, oh my gosh, it's the talk for weeks on end. It's obvious, and then I get fired and it's like, oh, obviously Dave wanted Dante fired. It's like, oh, goodness gracious. Yeah.
You asked me earlier about what Rodgers was saying on McAfee, and he was talking about it on the game on Sunday when they went for 2 and made it 15-6 because that was a quote unquote 2-score game. Remember, that was the whole thing with that weird interaction where he was like, I punched Robert and was like, because Robert's big with 2-score lead. So like, they're still carrying the same message. It sounds like also.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like he's still like Rodgers was still saying that. So I don't know if that's a Rodgers thing or if that was a Saleh thing. I mean, I guess that's who we know who's really kind of driving the ship or was driving the ship because in response to the awkward interaction, that's what Rodgers said it was about. He was like, he's not a hugger, so I went to hit him in the chest. It was like 2-score lead, and you can read his lips. He does say something about 2 scores.
Yes, that's right. So I saw, I think some of the same interactions, Dave, where he basically was saying it's like it's been a thing with us. It's like we want to get at least that 2-point lead. Like we're never in that position for our defense where we give them a 2-point lead. So I was sort of saying to him, like, okay, there's your 2-point lead.
Yeah.
And everybody reads into it, like you said.
Of course.
I know somebody who has been affiliated with the NFL in some level professionally, not a player, and he was half joking but insistent at the same time that something like wearing the Lebanese flag would draw serious ire from the NFL. Serious ire. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I seriously doubt, though, that means that they're going to turn around and fire the guy. Like that, I don't think it works that way.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
But I think your take on it, though, Dave, is interesting when you said earlier that you think that his firing was a panic move. Because I didn't think about it that way. It's interesting to hear you say that as a Jets fan. I took it almost like a message, hey, we've built a team to win today, not tomorrow. Let's go win. And to your point, I mean, it had no effect, and it's incredibly disruptive to let a coach go during a season. I mean, that's the most disruptive thing you could probably think of, other than losing your starting quarterback, I would imagine.
Yeah. I think both of these statements can go hand in hand with each other. A panic move, and it was to light a fire under the team. My rebuttal to that would be, what championship team ever fired their coach mid-season and won championship? Like, you've never seen that happen, have you? I don't know. I mean, I guess actually I don't know if you watched that Lakers show or remember the Lakers of the 79-80, but they had to replace their coach mid-season because the coach got injured. And they went to the championship. They didn't win, though. They went to the championship. But that, that's, I guess, a little different. He wasn't intentionally replaced. But
and that again speaks to, I think, to the dysfunction, a deeper dysfunction.
Yeah.
Yes. I think you're right.
I do not disagree about that.
I think panic move is the perfect phrase for it, because I think you're 3 games in. I mean, I know there were more than 3 games in when this happened, but I'm saying you're 3 games in. Well, no, I shouldn't say after 3, because after 3 we were 2-1.
Right. And he was getting praised, by the way.
Yes. All of a sudden, no, now you're 2-3. And it's like, they actually did tell Salah after that, like, this game is important. And I heard some whispers that Woody Johnson and the chairman maybe of the Jets, like some other guy, like some other bigwig or whatever relating to the Jets, like they sat down with Salah and they were like, this next game is really important. They were talking about the game against Minnesota. They stressed multiple times how important the game was, and then people were saying, like, they basically were telling him this is like a must-win game for you. And then when he didn't win, they were like, all right, that's it. Now we're 2-4. And I have to say, it is a panic move. I agree completely that's a panic move. At the same time, I also agree that it's to light a fire, because I think third, he's Dave looking at the same timeline you were just laying out. And he's like, this is the team. And he actually said, to Woody Johnson's credit, this is what he said. He said, this is the most talented roster we've had in all the years I've ever owned the team. So to be 2-4, he didn't say it, but to be 2-4 is just not acceptable.
Yeah, not acceptable. That's right.
How can that be? And I have to agree. I mean, as a fan, we are perplexed. I don't know what it is, but I watched the game and I'm like, I don't know what to say. Handing it off to Breece Hall up the middle for half a yard in a cloud of dust. Guess what? It's 3rd and 8 again. There's a big play up, and there's the holding call, or there's the.
I was going to say that
the man out of formation call, or ridiculous.
3rd and 15. Let's just get a couple yards and punt it away.
Yeah.
The penalties that really drive me nuts for the Jets are these false starts by running backs and wide receivers. It's like, and again, we talked about these young players. Garrett Wilson had 2 last week. 2, and it's not the first time he's done that. Breece Hall has also had false starts. It's like, how does that happen?
I mean, Dave, short of new ownership, like, what's the answer?
I don't know. You got to win in spite of ownership. You have to just find a way. You have to find some magic. If they go on a run right now, hypothetically speaking, even if they don't win the championship, it'll be the best run of Jets football we've ever seen. And what I mean by that is if they like go on a run to make the playoffs and then they maybe win a game in the playoffs. It's like we haven't even had playoffs in 14 years. So
Yes.
Speaking as someone who just went through a similar run with the Mets that the Mets just did, because they were pulling like historic wins and they started the season so poorly and then they made the playoffs. They were pretty much counted out the first 2 months. It could be a similar path. I mean, no one can predict that happening. I guess the Jets actually have more talent than they were supposed to be very good. So maybe they do actually catch fire. I don't know. You got to just wait and see what happens. I think you have to be very patient. It just people are not, and you see that with moves like this, where it's like they were 2-3 when they fired Salah. If you're going to do it in 5 games, why didn't we do it before the season? Like Dante said earlier, like should have been after.
I got to agree with that.
If you're going to fire him,
I heard several analysts say that, like at the end, they should have. If they were going to do this, they should have done it at the end of last season. And I think they were like, listen, give him a mulligan because we lost Rodgers for the year. Look at how the defense played. If we could have put up 2 touchdowns per game, we would have won and made it to the playoffs. Like the last 3 years. But last year in particular, really just felt like there were so many games of like, good God, like if we could have scored 1 bloody touchdown, we would have won this game. I always still look at the Giants like the Giants have won like in our lifetime, like more than once. And Jets, it's like I don't think anybody's looking at people may look at the Giants this year and say they suck or like this isn't good. Okay, fair enough.
It's the same ownership that took them to those Super Bowls, so it's hard to say. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and maybe they're like it's outgrown them, and in 10 years you'll be like it's been however long. So whatever. But my point is like the Jets, it's just perpetual doldrums. Perpetual doldrums. And I don't know, Dave. You might remember who did the analysis. I don't know if it was Greenberg or Greeny or whatever his name is on ESPN, or if it was somebody else, but I feel like somebody did an analysis and they were like, this has been the Jets' trajectory since Woody Johnson bought them. And you just see, it's like season after season after season. It's just like this decline. It might have been Rich Eisen. I forget who it was. Somebody. somebody went right at Woody Johnson. It was basically like, ever since Woody Johnson bought the team, they've just gotten perpetually worse. Now, listen.
Wow.
And I'm not trying to defend Woody Johnson, but I will tell you that the Jets in the 90s, before Woody Johnson bought them, were horrific. So it's not as if they were crushing it. Woody Johnson bought them and he ruined
it. Yeah.
Like, at best, you could say they haven't gotten better under him. But there have been years that they came close. I mean, they almost went to 2010, 2011. They almost went to the AFC Championship. No,
they went to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row.
Lost it.
Yeah, 2 years in a row.
Yeah. So it's not as if they can't make the playoffs. But the last few years, man, it's just been rough, dude. Year after year, we're rebuilding. And you said it before, Mike. It's like the Steelers. I don't remember the Steelers ever being like, oh, they're rebuilding. They're horrible. No. Year
always
after
good.
Year, they're always a competitive team. Green Bay Packers, always a competitive team.
Yep.
You know, there's not many more teams. I mean, I'm sure there's a couple others you could probably say that about, but the Jets sure shit ain't one of them.
The worst part of it is when you can't just put your friggin' finger on it. That's the thing.
I agree.
It's not like say we have a quarterback, he sucks, or we have a coach, he sucks. It's like, we change the parts. You have a good point about it. I mean, has ownership made decisions that you guys have like thoroughly disagreed with? Or have you been happy with the parts that they put in place?
Well, I'll jump in and say I really liked the Joe Douglas hire, and I liked the Robert Saleh hire. When they hired both of them, I was very happy with that. I thought that was good. I thought that was the right move.
I agree.
Before that was Adam Gase. Okay. I did not understand that from day one. I was shocked when it happened, and I was like, whoa. Adam Gase just got fired out of Miami. He basically got run out of Miami. And so the Jets hire him, and it was a classic. It was just so cliche Jets. It's like somebody somewhere thinks they're outsmarting the whole league.
Yeah.
And something about the circumstances for this guy were wrong, and that's why he was horrible in Miami, but he was going to somehow come to the hardest market in the country, to the team that has had the hardest time making things happen, and he was going to be the key. And I mean, and it was a fucking circus for 2 years. It was hard. I mean, in both those years, Dave, I mean, you might remember the records. I don't. But it was an embarrassment. I mean, my memory is it was week after week of let's laugh at the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
Let's look further at the dysfunction that is the New York Jets. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah, it was mostly that.
One week that I can remember the offense coming together. Hiring Adam Gase is like, we're going to be an offensive powerhouse. And they were as bad as the offense has been. And the offense has been like that ever since. Like, the offense has not gotten better. Like, when was the last time you remember the offense being good, Dave? Not even under Rex Ryan.
Well, they had that year in 2015 with Ryan Fitzpatrick where he went off and set the record for
That's true. Thank
touchdowns.
You.
Yeah.
The year after that, Fitzpatrick came back after the whole negotiation. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And our offense has never been good since.
You're right.
And year after year, and every offseason, here's the part, it's like Charlie Brown and Lucy in the football man. Every offseason, they make these moves and they hype up the fans. Like, this is they plug these holes, man.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
This is the year. Like, this was the year. Oh, we bolstered that offensive line. Like, that's going to make all the difference. We're going to have Rodgers back. We got Tyron Smith protecting him. And I'm not even turning around and trying to say that Tyron Smith hasn't played well. Let's just go with it. Like, he's actually played decently. Okay. The offensive line, Dave, to your earlier point, the offensive line hasn't been horrible. Fair enough. Yeah. But they're fucking losing. So something isn't working. I mean, I'm watching the offense and I'm like, this feels, I don't even know what to say. It's like, I'm watching Aaron Rodgers and he's making good throws, and some of the time it's like he hits the guy in the hands and they drop the ball.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I've seen that a bunch of times.
Yes. Way too many times. Or he throws it or he snaps the ball and, a guy comes through untouched and sacks him, for a 7-yard loss or something ridiculous. Like, we've all seen that happen too. I mean, I don't even understand who's missing assignments on shit like that, but you got that going on. Then you got, he'll occasionally dirt the ball. And then you got these moments too where he throws the ball, nobody's there.
Yeah.
And then you see him talking to the receiver and you're like, I'm going to have to assume that Rodgers was throwing to where the receiver was supposed to be. So now the receiver, it's like...
Right. By default, that's what you assume, but you have no idea.
Well, if it's Zach Wilson, I assume that he doesn't know where the hell he's throwing the ball. But if it's Aaron Rodgers, I'm like,
right.
I have a feeling that he knows where the ball's supposed to go. It's like opening the door, expecting to find the prom date of your dreams, and it's a fucking troll who kicks you in the nuts. That's what the NFL, my NFL experience feels like this season and last season. Okay?
Look at the bright side, Lois. It's a chance for a fresh start for both Cleveland and Lorraine.
Oh my God! What are you doing? What's wrong with you?
What the hell, man?
Hurts, doesn't
What
it?
the hell? Yes! What the hell's your problem?
My friend.
What?
You've been kicked in the nuts.